From vinyl music sounds to lively verbal go-arounds,
this is Into the Runout.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Thursday again. Thursday.
Thursday.
I'm John. It's my
I'm
co-host, Tony.
Hey.
Welcome. We welcome all of you. We thank you all for liking, subscribing to all our pages, especially YouTube, where you're able to see our beautiful faces.
Yeah.
So please make sure you subscribe to that and all the other channels that you prefer. And guess what, Tony? I don't know if you know.
What?
It's episode 10.
What?
This is our 10th episode. We've made it.
My goodness.
Very few do.
Wow. That's amazing.
Does it feel like 10?
No, it doesn't. I mean, we've had so much fun so far. It's been kind of like, wow. I mean, we kicked this off in August, and who would have thought that here we are now, in the month of October, and we're still doing this, and we're still having fun.
I know I am, for sure.
Oh, I'm having the time of my life, and thank you, viewers and listeners who are tuning in for the first time, subscribing, participating. Thank you for giving us additional motivation to keep doing this, because, if this was falling on deaf ears per se, we probably would have already packed it up and took our vinyl and went home. But you know what? You want to hear the vinyl. You want to hear the discussion about the vinyl. You want to go with us as we go into the runout. So we're grateful to bring you along on our vinyl journey and musical journey into some of our favorite music. And today is no exception, John. We are tackling one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic album in the history of recorded music, from a man who sadly is no longer with us, but who left his mark on the landscape of all genres of music. I don't care what style or genre you like. You can't go more than a day or two in music and not know the man, the myth, the legend, the king of pop, Mr. Michael Jackson.
Mike Jackson. We're going to get to that, though, in a minute, because I've got to talk about This Week in Music History.
Ooh, This Week in Music History, yes.
You got to keep people going, keep people informed, as you will.
Absolutely, and we love this segment.
Yes, we do. Are you ready, Tony?
Ready.
Okay, here we go. Let me get my notes ready. So, October 9th, 1985. Yoko Ono officially dedicated Strawberry Fields Memorial in Central Park for her late husband, John Lennon, on his 45th birthday. Wow. Have you ever been to Strawberry Fields in New York?
You know what? I didn't actually go to Strawberry Fields, but I did get the chance to see the Imagine thing in Central Park when I visited New York way back in 2001. So I got the opportunity to see that with my aunt, who I went to Manhattan with. And yeah, it was neat to see that. But yeah, we didn't get the chance to go, because Strawberry Fields is further into Central Park, isn't it?
It's just a section in Central Park. It's right on the, I forget if that's, I don't know what street that is. If that's, I think it's 4th, not 5th. It's on the other side. But it's just a section in Central Park, closest to the Dakota.
Yeah.
I think that's considered Strawberry Fields. That's the section there. It's got the little placard in the walkway. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
So I probably did see it, but just maybe wasn't paying as much attention to it, and probably just paying attention more to the Imagine mural, because that was, of course, littered with all kinds of keepsakes and flowers and what have you.
Yeah, we were there just last year. Actually, it was early this year, and saw some live performances, and it was
nice.
Kind of a nice, peaceful thing. It was a nice spot in the park, for sure.
Yeah.
October 10th, going in the way back machine. This is the year 1813.
Whoa.
I think this is our oldest historical reference so far. Giuseppe Verdi. Do you know Giuseppe Verdi?
Well, I know that Giuseppe is the Italian name for Joseph. So,
Okay.
Joseph Verdi, what did Joseph Verdi give the music of the world?
Joe Verdi.
Joe Verdi.
As he's known in the neighborhood.
Right?
Well, he gave us a lot of operas, actually. Italian composer.
Whoa.
Rigoletto.
Rigoletto, okay.
Il Trovatore. And La Traviata.
Ooh.
Famous songs is the drinking song, otherwise known as La Traviata, and
I know that song.
See?
I went to a master's performance of somebody that I attended church with, who was going to Roosevelt University, and for his senior master's, that may not have been a master's, I think it was just his senior recital. We were in the Roosevelt University, the auditorium theater, which in 1999 I did not realize that I was sitting in Adler and Sullivan's architectural masterpiece. And I'm like, oh my God, I was sitting in it and didn't know a lick about architecture in those days and the significance of that theater. But there I was watching this young man who I was attending church with, who was doing his degree in music, and he, as one of his songs, was the drinking song, and it was remarkable, because there was this point where he was like, he does a hiccup, and the crowd starts laughing hysterically because he did it with such flair and theatrics. But yeah, I actually know that song, and I remember it being extremely, a very beautifully arranged and lyrically, profound song.
how about La Donna Mobile? Do you know that song?
I don't know if I know that song.
Pavarotti, infamous for singing that one.
Hey, look at John showing off some of your operatic chops.
I don't have those.
No? I don't know.
That was AI. That wasn't me.
Well, hey, whenever you want to give us a command performance, I will be a engaged and observant audience.
Okay. I'll take you up on that. I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated.
Awesome.
October 11th, 1997, Elton John's Candle in the Wind topped the Billboard charts.
Yep,
of course, this was his version for Diana.
Princess Diana, yeah. And when he performed it live,
tearjerker, right?
Oh my God! I mean,
if you were around that time and you watched it, you will remember that. You'll remember where you were for that performance.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could
talk about bringing a song back to life.
Yeah, and he did it with great, great warmth and affection and sensitivity for a beautiful woman who, met an unfortunate death. And he rewrote it beautifully for her. And the later studio version still captured that same beauty, but the live performance at her funeral is the one that undoubtedly will go down in the minds of those who listened to it and experienced it. We'll never forget it for the rest of our lives, because Elton really embodied what we were all feeling.
You could definitely hear that and feel that through that performance.
Yeah.
October 12th, 1965, the Beatles recorded Run for Your Life and tongue twister, Norwegian Wood.
Norwegian Wood.
Remember those? That was a Rubber Soul Sessions.
That's right.
Good songs.
Great song.
October 16th, the year 2016, not too long ago, Bob Dylan won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow.
Yeah, can you believe that?
I can.
Yeah. I don't know if he accepted it. He seems like the type of person that would decline that award, but
well, I know he showed up for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he, gladly, received the acceptance of the wider music community. I know that Dylan has had, he's had kind of an interesting, kind of give and take with public performances at times. Like when he was given the opportunity to do We Are the World, he kind of just came in, did his thing, and said peace out. But
Well, he
grateful
didn't
that
seem
we
very comfortable in that.
No, well, and yet I really feel like he really embodied the typical what we expect of Bob Dylan, an
Yeah.
individual who saw the moment and understood the lyric that, Lionel and Michael were giving the world, and he could see it because, I mean, as a poet and as a man who was a voice that was speaking about society and change, I think that they had the right idea to invite him, and I'm glad that he ultimately came out and did that. But yeah, interesting. I didn't know that he had received a Nobel Peace Prize, so I'm assuming that it was for his musical contributions, or did he?
His musical contributions. Yeah,
wow.
he was the first songwriter to achieve the award.
Wow.
In history, so he should be. He should be the first to win that because definitely known for his songwriting skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're moving on to October 14th, the year 1977. We lost the voice of voices, Bing Crosby. If I could sound like any singer in the history of the world, I think it would be Bing Crosby. How about you? Who would you want to sound like if you had the chops of somebody else?
Who would I want to sound like? Wow, that is such a good question.
I'm thinking Freddie Mercury, maybe? Are you a Freddie voice guy, or are you thinking Elvis, or?
I probably would want to be Elvis.
Okay.
Elvis just because he had that, for his vocal range, it was so strong, but Bing's too. Bing was just, wow. I mean, well, and it's funny. The wife was purchasing some little tree decorations, ornaments, and she got this one of Bing Crosby in a small little like vinyl album, and it was just like, yeah, I mean, when you think of Christmas, you think of Bing Crosby. When you think of old time music, and you think of Bing. And it's so interesting, though. It's the irony of the suddenness of Bing's passing. It came not long after his last Christmas program, in which he was paired historically with one of the most, unorthodox duet partners that one of his genre, background, and experience would ever imagine would share a microphone with, when he and Mr. David Bowie got together, and they did this interesting little take on Little Drummer Boy, in which, Bing's, ever present, deep baritone boom boom was going on, and there's, Bowie taking it to the next level with kind of his own little take on peace on earth and the world being a better place, and bringing it back together with the sentiment of the song. And yeah, but interesting that, not long after that, I want to say it was months even, that we lost Bing.
Yeah.
To a heart attack, I believe.
Heart attack. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. October 15th, 1955. The Grand Ole Opry premiered on ABC TV.
Wow.
So, very first time you could watch the Grand Ole Opry on television.
Yep. And in those days, the Grand Ole Opry did their shows from the world famous Ryman Auditorium in downtown Nashville, a venue that I had the chance to finally see a concert in about a year and a half ago with my mom. We went to see Jim Croce's son AJ do a concert where he performed his dad's songs as well as his own, and songs that were inspiration to both him and his dad. So that was a great opportunity to finally go to that glorious, I call it the crown jewel of all the Nashville music venues. But yeah, for decades upon decades, until the Grand Ole Opry opened up their own museum and soundstage, that was the place where the Grand Ole Opry would do their shows. And I found out from an Uber rider not that long ago that they just performed what they're saying is their final Opry performance at the Ryman Auditorium.
Interesting.
Which
really?
I'm kind of surprised, because I don't know what's going to happen when, the Opry marks more, because this year they're doing Opry 100. So they're commemorating 100 years of the Grand Ole Opry's existence. But I'm not quite sure what they're going to do when they get to 125. Are they gonna break rank and go back to and perform at the Ryman? I don't know. But yeah, they've made the determination that they're now done doing shows at the Ryman.
Well, I didn't learn about the Grand Ole Opry until I watched The Coal Miner's Daughter with my wife.
Ah, yes.
That's where I learned about the Grand Ole
And I
Opry
do.
and,
I
the
remember
Ryman,
learning
yeah.
about that too. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep, great movie. Sissy Spacek
sure is.
giving the performance of a lifetime. Tommy Lee Jones wowing us with an amazing performance. He talked about, you know, going and visiting and spending time with Loretta Lynn and her family out there and learning about them and out there in the middle of, you know, Middle Tennessee, out in the middle of literally nowhere. I mean, it's you know, the area where their property and their grounds are is still just the middle of nowhere, and it's some of the prettiest country you ever want to see.
Well, that's it for this week in music history. And now, before I rudely interrupted you, Tony was telling us about the King of Pop.
Well, you know what? In the pre prep of the show, you had talked about doing this day in music history, and I should have asked you to specify if we were going to do that first or last. So that was my fault. So
we don't take fault. We don't take fault on this show.
We're not about fault in the vernacular of tennis. We're about love. Love 45. Yeah, so love 45. We love the 45s.
We do.
We love the 32s, the 45s, and even the 78s.
The 78s.
Yeah, I've got some 78s buried and stored somewhere. I've never actually played them, but I've got them.
I don't know if you can see behind me. If you look at the bottom, can you see the bottom?
Yes.
Over there?
Yes.
I have over 1,000 78s.
Wow.
Don't ask me how I acquired all of those.
Well, you told me the story. You had you got those via your grandfather, right?
A handful of 78s, but most of those 78s just came along over the years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Yeah. So
we
could talk about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just kind of browsing and seeing, because I mean, I've only seen your now, you know, displayed music collection just on the podcast, but soon and very soon I might be seeing that music stack. So
yeah, we've got before we move on, we have some special things coming up in the near future, so definitely stay tuned and make sure you subscribe so we can notify you when that's going to happen. But you're going to be very excited to see what we have coming up in the near future.
Yep, first for Into the Runout. So
yep. We'll keep you updated, so pay attention.
We're excited.
Yeah, we are.
So yes, but the King of Pop, Michael Jackson. When we think about Michael, I mean, certainly there are lots of memorable things that we can, you know, associate to Michael. I mean, when he came on the scene with his brothers in the early 1970s as a part of the Jackson 5, you know, they swept into our lives and our hearts. They gave us a brand of music that was crafted into a rock and roll / pop genre that kept people on the dance floors dancing. And these kids from Gary, Indiana, just showed us that, wow, they could do it. And Michael, more than any of the brothers, showcased that it factor. You know, a young kid who could dance like James Brown, sing like an angel. I mean, just with passion and soul and energy. And the early offerings of the Jackson 5 certainly could, you know, we could devote a show just to that. You know, I Want You Back, ABC, Stop the Love You Save, I'll Be There. I mean, just amazing songs. And, you know, they were all revived when Michael and his brothers, you know, reunited for the famous Motown 25 special in 1983. They got up there and they belted those songs out with the same enthusiasm and that was, of course, Michael at the peak of his popularity, because that was the same time frame in which we are showcasing today the album that took Michael from what was already a growing state of celebrity with Off the Wall to the juggernaut that some would argue is one of the greatest albums, if not the greatest album ever. And of course, that album is, John?
Thriller.
Yeah. Thriller.
I'm thrilled.
Indeed.
Thrilled to
Yeah.
be talking about Thriller.
Thrilled to be talking about Thriller, and of course, the iconic.
What's
There
more
it is.
iconic is the inside.
Yes, the inside. What's on the inside? Ha-ha. Look at that. Michael hanging out here.
It's got his pet, one of his pets.
Yep.
I don't see his pet monkey, but
No pet monkey. No monkey business on this album, folks. But, having done Off the Wall, it was Michael giving us an album that was showing his growth and his emergence as a solo artist, having hooked up with the late, great Quincy Jones, and giving us an album that was really, really just chock full of great songs. But now he's forging his own trail, and he is showing the world that Michael Jackson is going to become a force, with, in the pop world. And so he then goes and back into the studio with Quincy, and what an album.
Off the Wall definitely helped tee up this album.
Oh, yeah.
Got him prepared. MTV assisted it along, and I believe it was ABC also helped out. Pepsi helped out. So the commercialism of this album took off, but Off the Wall set it up for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could see Michael coming, just showing us, an emerging style that was his own. It wasn't his brothers, it wasn't Motown, it wasn't Berry Gordy, it wasn't his father. It was Michael forging his own musical trail and endeavoring to do something special with his career that was going to set him apart. Now, I mean, if he was here today to reflect back on Thriller, I don't know if he would even be able to say that he envisioned, the album taking off the way it did. But boy, did it take off, and for very, very, very good reason, because when you look at this album, it's like, can you really find a bad track on it, John?
No, I don't think so. I played this album so many times. I just wore the grooves out of this one. And I don't know if this was my first actual vinyl album that I owned, but it was definitely one of the first. And I played it every day nonstop. It did not have to be Halloween. I played it all the time.
Right.
Memorized the Vincent Price parts in the song, and
oh God,
even the inner sleeve liner notes and the artwork on that I thought was really cool, and I always like to reference back to that.
Yeah, I remember watching a clip of Vincent Price on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, where Vincent was talking about, recording this little thing for Michael Jackson and making a paltry sum of money. It's like Michael Jackson, the shrewd businessman, was very much at work, in this album, because Vincent Price was certainly one of the individuals who learned it, and a man who really, really learned it more than anybody was the late, great Eddie Van Halen, when Michael reached out to him and asked if he would provide some guitar work for the song that ultimately became one of the signature songs on the album, Beat It. And guitar solo extraordinaire, Eddie didn't disappoint, but the compensation that came, or their lack thereof, is something of music legend.
Well, maybe he just had a bad agent, because he should have been got a piece of the album sales, the residuals.
He sure should have.
Who knew?
Yeah, who knew, right? But Michael knew.
He must have.
He must have known there was something to be said there, because that shrewd businessman was emerging, and
he must have learned that from his father.
That's very, very possible. That's very, very possible. Joe could certainly be called certain things, maybe not of the disparaging side based on some of the stories. But one thing you can't say is that the man didn't know business. because
Yep.
apparently he had a pretty good business savvy in his own right. But yeah, I mean, so when you think about the songs, I mean, we could certainly go in order of the singles. Michael decided that it was, it was the best way to start with something maybe of less of the vein of what the rest of the album took. And that was where he got back together with Paul McCartney, and they did a little song together called The Girl Is Mine. And that song wound up being the first song released. And I think as far as all the chart songs go, I think it was the lowest charted song on the album, but still a fabulous little song.
That would sound about right. I don't know the chart rankings, but that would sound about right, because obviously there's much bigger hits than that. And I just hit my microphone.
Oh dear.
It's just interesting to see Paul and Michael working together, and then later they would exchange ownership of Beatles songs and you name it.
Yeah. And then of course, the more popular duet Say Say Say, which is, was a Paul McCartney song with Michael joining him, and that turned out to be a great musical partnership because they really shared vocals together, they shared the song, and Paul proved that he could match musical chops with the emerging king of pop and Michael Jackson, and it was just a great song. But The Girl Is Mine, no slouch by any means.
Looks like it 1982 did chart well. It was number 2 on the US Billboard Hot 100.
Okay, so it did go to number 2.
It did. So
okay.
I didn't think it went that high. And
no, I thought it was lower, but apparently I was wrong.
It also did well in the R&B charts.
Oh well, yeah, I can imagine the R&B charts. Yeah, it's Michael. I think they might as well should have just called it the Michael Jackson charts, because there was a time where Michael owned those charts. Woo.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
Yeah, but October 18th, 1982. And then followed up with on January 3rd, 1983, came Billie Jean.
Famous opening drum kick.
Oh, absolutely.
And talk about the music video, and just so much to talk about this song. And this was definitely the very first front runner best song on the album.
Yeah. And still relatively new and extremely popular when the following month, when Michael did join the Motown 25 broadcast and performance, he was up there with his brothers. And then when that segment ended, Michael stayed on stage and he talked about, how he enjoyed those songs with his brothers. But they said, but I especially like the new songs. And he grabbed that fedora and rocked into a lip-syncing version of Billie Jean, in which, of course, in that performance, what did Michael reveal to the world?
The moonwalk.
Yeah, that is the first time he walked on air, so to speak, and it would show up a few months later when it was actually broadcast on nationwide television in I believe it was in May. But the the music world rocked for those 3 months in preparation of the broadcast, because word went out that night that Michael had done something new and innovative and newsworthy. And from then on, it was like, wow. I mean, Billie Jean was destined to be a top song, and boy, did it go top.
Well, I know I mentioned this in the previous episode that I didn't have MTV or a cable at that time. So I hadn't seen the moonwalk but I did watch the performance live. I remember tuning in and watching that, and just being like mesmerized, like, what did I just see? And of course, you couldn't rewind it and look back again. So you just had to sit there with that.
Yeah, and then he did it again briefly again as he was wrapping up the song, just to remind people that they didn't that their eyes didn't see, a mirage or an apparition, that was indeed Michael doing something that has never quite been done in that manner before. And
not in that manner, but it was styled after certain dances that he has seen over the years from previous musicians and artists and dancers and
no doubt.
forth.
No doubt.
Doing it in a slightly different form, but that was his take on it.
Yeah, his take on it. But yeah, it changed music history, and it gave the album something that it didn't necessarily require, certainly wasn't in desperate need of, but it gave that a whole nother level of exposure with him doing the moonwalk on that song. And from there, I mean, the album just doesn't miss a beat. The Fountain, right about the same time Beat It was released. And I love reading, and this is something, admittedly, I don't know how this missed my musical eyes, but in the video for Beat It, he actually secured a whole lot of actual members of gangs from the Los Angeles area, the Bloods and the Crips, and got them to perform in the video because he wanted to show something that was real and raw and authentic. And his whole purpose is to show music bringing together people of different backgrounds and different, in this case, literally differing philosophies and ideologies.
Sounds a little risky.
Sounds a little risky.
That could have gone wrong.
It could have, but thankfully, I think there was enough.
Right.
Yeah, there was enough respect for Michael and what he was trying to accomplish that they all understood the weight of what they were a part of, and it wound up working out good. Because I mean, in the realm of that video, it was just like, wow. I mean, it's Michael, and then all of a sudden, it's like, the garage doors open, and here they come, and Eddie Guitar's wailing guitar solo, and all of the movement and the nuances that went with the song just was like in perfect sync with the music that was playing. I mean, if there was ever a man that was able to successfully sync music and movement and dance together, I it's hard to say. I can't think of anybody who did it any better than Michael Jackson. There are admittedly other artists who may have done it exceptionally well, but I think it's safe to say that I can't imagine anybody doing it better.
He had years of practice as a kid growing up with his brothers, and I feel if he wasn't an artist or a musician or a songwriter, that he would have been a choreographer or something of that nature, because he was definitely that good at it. Definitely a lot of foresight with his approach to music. And on this song, he got to work with Quincy co-producing too. So
yes,
starting to dabble on the technical side of things as well.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it would only seem right that, an emerging solo artist who was possessing all the musical talent and potential, that he would, want to expand that and learn that craft, because he was undoubtedly a artist that, was, as far as excellence went, you could tell that was Michael to a T.
So are we going down the singles? Or are we going to go track to track?
Well, yeah, let's just do the singles. Want to Be Starting Something, released May 9th, 1983.
Love
so
that
a
song.
continuation. Yeah, great song. Absolutely great song. It was just, had a great energy and a great tempo. And once again, Michael demonstrating just amazing vocals. And, I still love the, yeah, just rolling off in the background.
And the trumpets.
The trumpets, absolutely, the trumpets. You could see Michael's musical sensibilities. He's just knowing where to place things and finding the right pocket, finding the right groove, finding the right moment to interject the right type of sounds. And yeah, positively just one of those incredible tracks where you're just, you're caught up in it.
Then you got Mama Say, Mama Sa, Mama Makusai.
Yeah, which I think, if I recall from reading, I think that might be maybe possibly Swahili, something of an African language. I think there was maybe a misunderstanding of what dialect he was going for there, but it was definitely of that vein.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And obviously as kids we didn't know what that meant or who it was referencing, but it was just a catchy little tidbit to put in a song
Yeah,
to get you singing along.
yeah. Yeah, and while you're singing along, you're hearing Michael going, "Ow!" Giving us those moments where he just, ooh, it's like, dang, let's give us another one, Michael. He just knew how to just keep the listener just totally engaged.
Well, this song is a way to wake you up because it's the first song on the album, so he definitely was trying to start off with high energy and get you engaged for sure.
He was starting something. So yeah, then on to the next track released July 4th, 1983, Human Nature.
Well, a lot to talk about on this song.
Tell me about it, John.
Definitely dialed back song. Do you know who wrote this song? Do our fans know who wrote this song?
Who wrote it, John?
Was it Michael? No, it wasn't Michael.
No, it wasn't.
It was John Bettis and our old pal Steve Porcaro.
Ooh. And for those who don't know who Steve Porcaro is, what band did Steve Porcaro make his mark in?
Toto.
Hey!
I was waiting for our fans to chime in. And Toto too.
Toto.
And Toto
too, absolutely. Yep, Steve Porcaro, Jeff Porcaro performed on that album as well. Steve Lukather and David Pyich. And, of course, those four fine gentlemen who were, of course, Toto. They also played a significant part in another great 1970s album. And what album was that, John?
Oh, you stunned me. You stunned me. I'm not sure.
Lido, Shuffle,
okay.
Lowdown. Yeah, they performed.
We talked about that earlier. You're right.
Boz Scaggs at Silk Degree. So yeah, those cats were keeping busy in the 70s and 80s.
And if you dig, you don't have to dig too deep on YouTube, but you can find a video of the original Steve Porcaro version of Human Nature and how he had it, and they basically didn't change a thing. Obviously, Michael sang the song, but it sounds pretty much like the exact same song. That's how much Michael liked the song.
Wow.
And he didn't want to use it. He's like, here, take this. So, well,
nice.
Talk about a throwaway song.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Michael knew a good song when he heard it. Yeah. And it's obvious because, like you just said, I mean, I didn't know that part of the story. So you gave me and the listening audience, a nugget that I won't forget now. That Michael heard it and loved it and didn't want to change anything about it.
Now I have a question. I think Toto's considered a yacht rock band. If you're familiar with yacht rock, so is Michael Jackson yacht rock? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess in that moment he could be considered a crossover artist, I mean, I'm sure with the earnings that he, secured for Thriller, I'm sure there was possibly a yacht or two in Michael's future that were purchased in which he was able to sail the seven seas and maybe do a command performance on a yacht while he sailed along from one island to another. So, I mean, apropos, I think, yachts and Michael could have very well went hand in hand.
I think so.
But human nature is, when you see an opportunity to make money, you don't worry about who else it's affecting. You go and you grab it. And, I think Michael was understanding that about the industry, is that he wasn't going to let some record impresarios get the best of him. He was going to take command of his musical destiny. He was going to take command of his songs. He was going to, be the master of his own destiny, the captain of his own soul, as the Invictus poem goes, and yeah, I mean, Michael certainly took ownership of it. I mean, my goodness, certainly had some great help, but boy.
Yeah, this song is definitely a more laid-back song than most of the other ones on the album, and I think back in the early '80s, you always had to have that romantic side, one song to just sit back and relax to, and this was one of those for sure. And being 10 years old when the album came out, I didn't know anything about romance, but I could feel the difference in this song and the other songs on there, and I'd play this song just as much as the other ones, just as much as the other ones that I like to dance to, and the title track. This song was played just as much. I love this song.
Yeah. Well, but the good news for us, John, is we were fortunate. We did see a little romance in our lives. We watched our parents, and we were able to connect music and human life together. And I think it was a formative time for a lot of people who came to understand music, because we saw that marriage between music and life. That we learned that our parents had favorite songs that they sang together. They had songs that brought them back to the time when they went on their first date, or when they went, to the movies together. You got to figure they were listening to the hits of the day on that radio when they went to that drive-in and watched a movie and spent quality time together. But yeah, those beautiful quiet moments, they're like, yeah, human nature embodied that.
Yeah, and I know I'm listening to this record in my old house, in my old basement, and basically commandeered the record player that my parents used to play all those songs on.
Yes.
And from this record on, they never got to touch their own record player again. So,
but you know what though? That's what a good album will do. It'll commandeer you to more and more, because once you've listened to an album like this, you're hungering for more. And Michael undoubtedly found that. He found that pocket, and boy, he delivered the goods again and again. And after Human Nature, he gives us another release September 19th with PYT, Pretty Young Thing. A little more of a revved up song, kind of catchy, kind of bouncy.
Yep.
And Michael, not mincing any words about who this gal is, and telling us a little story about her and how he feels about her. And yeah, great little song.
James Ingram had a little piece of this one too. He co-wrote with Quincy Jones.
That's right.
Which was an interesting fact.
Yep. Yeah, James Ingram, who we came to know more with his involvement in We Are the World and his vocal contributions to that memorable project. But he was a man who was gaining popularity in his own right, with his own music. But yeah, somebody who we came to know and definitely appreciate for his own musical sensibilities.
Yeah, being a child of disco, as you know, this song kind of stood out for me because it had that disco funky pop feel to it. So
absolutely,
it was a nice catchy tune.
Yeah. Yeah, and you think about Michael, he was kind of like right on the tail end of that disco era when he did Off the Wall.
Yeah.
Because if you think about that introduction to Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, it rolled into that kind of that danceable, disco-y, and yet he was forging pop territory in the midst of that song.
Right.
You could hear the horns, you could hear the musical like infusion of rock and guitar. It was like Michael was working with a lot of different musical styles in that song, and you could tell he was bridging that gap between the disco era that was ending and the pop era that was really kind of coming into focus as we got out of the 70s and into the 80s. And he was one of those, like a Pied Piper. He was kind of...
Well, yeah, that's what he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you saw throughout his career how people would follow Michael Jackson because he's Michael Jackson. He always had a knack of leading the way and seeing change coming and leading the way with new types of music and new approaches to music. And with like what you just said, he basically picked up the baton that wasn't even dropped yet. Basically, he knew disco was kind of phasing out, and he saw something ahead, and he just picked it up and ran with it.
And then, of course, the final track, which the record executives were a little apprehensive about, because it's like, who wants to hear a song about, about, you know, horror? But Michael, in all of his, insight, said almost like, I'm going to save the best for last. So just 2 weeks after Halloween, on November 11th, he released the title track to the world, and of course gave the studio some additional assurance that his decision was the right one. He went to, found John Landis and to direct the music video of it, which of course in itself was, my goodness, I mean, MTV groundbreaking. I mean, MTV gave us the platform of the music video, and artists were exploring and trying and, different things. But Michael was.
I just drove by yesterday a drive-in theater, outdoor drive-in theater, that they had put on their placard, on their marquee outside, Taylor Swift release party. And I instantly thought to myself of this music video, because he led the way with, hey, this is a big deal. This is what's going to happen. And, everybody stopped to watch that on TV. It hadn't been done, I don't think, since the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, where everybody stopped what they were doing to watch something on TV. As far as music goes, anyways.
That's true.
I mean, you have the moon landing, you have the Beatles, you've got the Thriller album.
Yeah, I mean, Elvis Aloha from Hawaii in 73, billion and a half people stopped and took that in, worldwide satellite. And that was certainly a momentous, moment for the world. Colonel Tom Parker envisioned something that even blew Elvis's mind. But in this moment though, I mean, when Thriller came out, it was like, okay, this is Michael. It's gonna be something good. And I don't think it's unfair to say that it exceeded everybody's expectations. I don't think anybody was imagining in a million years that Michael would take that concept and be able to do the things that he did in that video, from the transformation of him to the werewolf, to the choreographed number of him and the zombies, to everything in between. I mean, we're talking about it now 32 years later, and it's like, it hasn't lost 1 ounce of its relevance, 1 ounce of its magic, 1 ounce of its seductive power. I mean, you are taken in by the thriller, you are held captive, and unlike the people in the horror films that want to get out, we don't want to leave. We want to stay in this seductive state, and we don't want to leave, because that groove, that sound, that visual, that experience has overtaken us, and we want more.
We want more.
Right?
I agree. You just told me too, off air, that you heard this song a couple times in one. Was it in one day? The Thriller song.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're
on 2 different occasions just this week.
Yeah, you're going to hear it all the time.
Yeah, I go to a local speedway every morning, and I get my drink for the road to go with my breakfast, and there's Thriller playing over the sound system, and of course I couldn't miss, because several of the gals that work behind the counter, I've built up a nice little rapport with and chat with them, and while I'm there in line, I'm doing the. I'm cutting loose, because it's
Did you have the makeup on?
No, if I had time, I certainly could have gone that route, but I didn't want to scare anybody in line. They might have been scared enough watching this, this crazy white guy, trying to dance like Michael Jackson. But it's like you hear it and you just want to do it. You just want to dance to it, because it's so it's so just it's just there. It just draws you right in. And then literally yesterday, while I'm getting my haircut and beard groomed, I'm sitting there in the waiting room before I got into the stylist chair, and bam, there it is, playing right over the sound system. And I'm talking to a fine gentleman waiting there with his daughter to get his hair cut. And we just start talking about that song. And I said, yeah, I just heard the song the other day. And I just dropped and said, yeah, me and my friend are going to be talking about this album on our podcast. He said, I'm going to go listen. I said, all right, thanks, man. So hopefully that fine gentleman is listening today and checking us out and enjoying this album as well.
Well, I hope the gentleman you met at the barbershop enjoyed our episode today. And I hope everyone else that's listening enjoyed what we were talking about today. And I want to please remind everybody to like and subscribe to all our social media accounts, and especially YouTube. Please feel free to subscribe there and watch and enjoy all our episodes as well. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and everywhere in between.
In between.
And Into The Runout. So yes. Be sure to join us every Thursday and next Thursday as well, when the music fades.
The discussion begins.
See you on side 2.
See you.